Hello and welcome back to another video in the world of Monster Hunter. It's finally here, my top 5 heavy bowgun. Now again, I wish to reiterate, these are not the best in the game. These are just ones that I really enjoy playing, and if you ever play a game with me at any point, by the way, on that Discord link and my Steam ID is in the description below. And also while you're at it, do feel free to click the subscribe button. But yeah, these are the ones that I will generally be using if we ever play a game together, and do not mind the builds or damages that I'm doing. These are generally builds for playing in a team, not solo. So here we go, my top 5 heavy bowguns. In at number 1 we have the Radabaan Roar 3, and typically people that use this weapon will do a bit of a status build, and before people start freaking out, oh my god, how dare he use the Radabaan Roar 3, because I have seen several times that people hate this weapon and class as the worst heavy bowgun in the game. Well, with plus 20 defense, 0 slots, 270 attack, 0% affinity, an average deviation, and it has Wyvern Snipe, which kicks the living crap out of Wyvern Heart any day. Honestly, this weapon isn't really that bad. I don't really have an optimized build for it because I only really tend to use it when I'm helping out lower level players, just because it doesn't really do that much. But in general, it fires pretty much a little bit of everything. I'm pretty sure the only thing it doesn't actually fire in any capacity is slicing shots. Anything else it fires, other than certain elements, but still it's got fire and water for those picky moments. But it fires pellet, or sorry, spread now, pierce, paralysis, sleep, poison, cluster, sticky, normal, wyvern fire, or wyvern ammo, whatever you want to call it. It literally, you name it, this weapon can do it. It is so bloody versatile, and it's just so handy for, oh look, it needs to be poisoned, here we are, poisoned, and oh, it's going to be paralyzed now, or sleeping. And I honestly do not understand why people really do hate this weapon. It is a marvellous little weapon, and it's just actually quite fun to use, and the plus 20 defense is just, it's lovely, to be perfectly honest. It's quite a nice little bonus, and to be honest, I do quite like the fact that it's an auto reload on the spread shot. Kind of makes me feel like I've got a pump action shotgun going on. It looks pretty darn badass, and it can hit pretty darn well, and it's really cheap to augment as well because it's rarity 6. So in a nutshell, this is a very versatile weapon. It doesn't deserve the hate it's currently getting. It is honestly a really good weapon, and just, you do need a bit of a jack of all trades for it. You can't really build particularly for one thing. You might notice in the clips I'm constantly scrolling through different ammo types. You don't really get a decent clip size of any of them, but it is a versatile weapon, and it does bloody well, bloody well in team compositions. This is my number 5. Anyway, on to number 4. And you said 3 then, Jesus. Gluttonous Fang Cannon. Now this shouldn't really surprise anyone because spread, which is the typical build for this, is becoming a major thing. And the only reason for me personally is that this is quite low on the list is because I just don't like spread. It is bloody awesome. It really is. But anyway, it doesn't give any defense bonus. It has 1 times level 1 slot. Attack is 270, 0% affinity. It's got a deviation of average, and it's Wyvern Heart. Because, you know, we all need a minigun that does fuck all. Anyway, yeah, so spread builds. These are actually very powerful. I'm not really sure if I'm conveying it too well, and I've kind of really picked the wrong monster because just trying to get weak spots on old Nurgle Gurgle here is a bit of a nightmare. But generally speaking, spread shots against most things will just absolutely wreck. They do a hell of a lot of damage. They are absolutely stupid in pure output. My only problem with them is if I really wanted to be that close to a monster, I'll just get my charge blades out, or my greatsword, or my lance. I'll just, you know, if I really wanted to be this close to a monster, I would literally just go melee. It does seem a bit counterproductive, particularly because it's called a heavy bowgun. These are both ranged weapons. I want them to be ranged. I don't want to be sat by its frigging ballsack pulling the trigger like a madman. This weapon does also have a bit of paralysis, some clusters, some stickies, some pierce, just for when you need to perhaps close the gap, get a bit of range in, maybe it's paralysed or sleeping. You do have alternatives, but the main build and the main thing you're going to be going for is that spread shot. And there are better spread shot weapons out there, and particularly when Qadhafi comes along, you've got the Qadhafi Glutton or something, which is considered to be the best spread shot heavy bowgun in the game. But the problem with these alternatives are you don't have to kill a great Jagras to get it. That is the best thing about this weapon. It is a very powerful end game weapon that is easy to make an end game build for, and all you need to do is kick the living crap out of great Jagras. Do you really need to know anything else about this? It's a good weapon and you kill great Jagras for it. Okay, sold. Where do I sign up? Honestly though, this weapon is quite a bit of a laugh. It does take some serious skill though to get used to using spread shots or a ranged weapon at that closer range. Anyway, on to my number 3, the Qadhafi Lion 3. Typical build would be your affinity, and before people start screaming, yes I know slash shots have been nerfed or slicing shots or whatever, I don't care. I really don't. With this weapon, they are still quite worthwhile. I actually have 100% crit build for this weapon, and its stats aren't really too bad either. It doesn't have any defensive bonus, but it's got ×1 level 1 slot, 255 damage, plus 15 affinity. It has no deviation, and it's a Wyvern snipe, so we're really back in there. As well as, I don't just use slicing. It's got paralysis, it's got sleep, it's got pierce, spread, clusters. It's quite a versatile weapon, and it can do some hefty damage. Again, it's rare 6, so 3 cheap augments, here I come. I've actually put attack, affinity and health regen on this. In hindsight, probably should have put 2 affinity just to free up some of the old slots for the build that I have going here. But overall, this weapon is very versatile. Slicing shots I do find quite handy for certain situations due to just the amount that they can hit. Add in some KO and you can near enough stun lock a monster, and in general it's actually absolutely hilarious watching 4 people slicing shot the living crap out of something's face with this weapon, because it's just it's hilarious. The bloody thing doesn't move. This weapon is actually probably one of the first heavy bowguns in this game that I actually went for, simply due to 1, the versatility of it, 2, Wyvern snipe looks awesome, 3, I quite like paralysis overall, and slicing shots when I first started playing looked absolutely amazing, and I hadn't quite found the little Reddit or forum post that said yeah they'd been nerfed into the ground, so I still thought they were quite OP. So I went for them thinking that I'm going to be the bee's knees, and it turns out that's no longer happening. But still, did a little bit of playing around, and this has kept its place as one of my favourite weapons. It's currently sat lovingly in my number 3 spot, and yeah, I really do love this weapon. I use it probably the most out of all of my heavy bowguns, simply just because of how versatile and fun and loving this weapon overall is. It really is an outstanding weapon, and I cannot recommend it enough. Anyway, on to my number 2, and I'm going to get a few boos here. Dark Devourer. What do you mean it's only number 2? Typical build, sleep bomb. What do you mean it's only number 2? This thing hits like an absolute truck. What do you mean it's only number 2? I can still hear you, go away. Dark Devourer has 0 defensive bonus, 0 slots. Its attack comes in at 345, negative 15% damage. Deviation is high, and Wyvern heart, great. And do not pay any mind to that negative 15% affinity, because you're just going to be going for clusters and stickies and bombs and Wyvern fire and bombs and clusters and bombs and stickies, and I can still hear people moaning that it's only at number 2. Technically speaking, this is the best heavy bowgun in the game. It hits like an absolute truck from outer space. It really, really does hit hard, and even if you don't actually have any decorations, just going for a few decent bits of armor and you're near enough good to go. Now I have actually got like a sleep build on this, so I've got the sleep skill at level 3, and I can basically put things to sleep like 4 or 5 times, and I can just sit there and have a bit of a break, rebuild my clusters, take a nullberry when needed, and back in with bombing the living crap out of things. And on to the reason why it's only at number 2. This weapon is bloody resource heavy. This is my loadout for just fighting an Elder Dragon. I have another one entirely which consists of traps and a few other things when I am fighting something that isn't an Elder Dragon. And I will use minus potions, etc, etc, because you know, healing augments with bombs. But I will use pretty much 90% of that, and I don't get it back, and using the farm doesn't really counteract it that much, even if you do spam the living crap out of the farm. So it's only at number 2 because you require so much to make this build worthwhile in a fight, and you've got a hotkey everything. Number 1, Lydia Shattercrest. Typical build, peer shots, and honestly the main reason this is at number 1 is because it reminds me so much of the Gravios Giga Cannon. Yes, Gravios Giga Cannon, Monster Hunter 4U, OP as shit. So Lydia Shattercrest, defense bonus 0, slot ×1, level 1 slot, has 255 attack, affinity is at 0%, deviation none. Only bad point about this weapon is that it is Wyvern Heart. Good point about it though, it literally has 0 bloody recoil on this weapon, so you can literally just hold down Wyvern Heart and the cursor doesn't move, so you can actually have it pinpoint accurate at all times. You need to break that face, not a drama. It doesn't spam anywhere. One thing I absolutely love about this weapon is with your cluster shots, it holds all 3 of them at one time. Bad point about this weapon, it's rarity 8, so you're only getting the 1 augment, and I've gone for affinity because I've got a affinity and critical boost build with my peer shots, and honestly the amount of damage that you can kick out with this weapon is somewhere between stupid, bloody sickening, insane, and haha, fuck you monster, because quite simply the bigger the monster the more damage you do, particularly if you aim down the length of the monster. Seems a bit nerve-wracking being a gunner and having to basically stay in the face of the monster, but when you shoot down that and you literally see like 50 different damage numbers come flying up out of that monster, and the average being between 11 and 22 with your peer shot level 3, you can imagine just how much damage you are effectively doing with this weapon. It is absolutely stupid. I love it, I love it, I love it. I really do still miss the Gravios Giga Cannon, but this weapon just, oh my god, it's insane the amount of damage that you can kick off. It's a bit annoying trying to find the optimal range to actually get the optimal damage for your peer shots, otherwise you tend to just see a series of 1s pop out, and it gets really confusing as well when you're stuck in this weird middle ground of where all your damage is 11 because now you're just seeing double 1s. But trust me, this weapon rocks. And that's a slight pun there because you know I'm kicking in Uragant's face or chin or face. I don't know what it is, it's a face chin. But this weapon is amazing. It's got slicing, which is a bit weird, clusters, stickies, paralysis, sleep. Pierce is the main thing, but it has some definite variability and some variety to actually go with it. You can do some amazing things with this weapon. Again, another one that I cannot recommend enough. Anyway, that is me. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you guys pretty darn soon. Enjoy life, don't die, it's bad for the health.